Good morning, fifth grade. We're going to start looking at chapter 3 of Esther. You guys did such an awesome job on listening to chapter 2 and finding the answers for that. So when let me give you a little preface of chapter 3. 4 years have actually passed between Esther becoming queen and what we're about to see. So we're told really nothing about those first couple of years that she was queen, and we can be certain they were filled with wonder for this young woman who was brought into the palace life. And we can only imagine what it was like for her to adjust to being in that royal position. But it seems like Esther totally embraced this privileged life with grace and humility. And so far, she is like high above Mordecai's position, but she remained devoted to Mordecai. And you will find out we are introduced to the character Haman, and he was a man, if you remember when we looked at the introduction to the book of Esther, he was actually a descendant of Agag, who was the king of the Amalekites, and we know that Saul's was supposed to kill all of them, and he didn't, and but his son did, and killed all of the Amalekites, and Haman was a direct descendant from him. So Haman was extremely angry and hated Jewish people. And Haman's promotion, as you'll see who Haman is, Haman was actually promoted to second in command. He was like right under King Xerxes. So he had a lot of clout and a lot of power. So let's read chapter 3, and it's titled Haman's Plot Against the Jews. Okay. So after these things, King Xerxes promoted Haman and advanced him and set his throne above all the officials who were with him. So again, he was second in command. And all the king's servants who were at the king's gates bowed down and paid respect to Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. So Haman had basically talked the king into saying, well, everyone should bow down to me the way that they bow down to you because I'm second in command. So the king made a law saying that everyone had to bow down to Haman whenever he passed in front of them. But Mordecai did not bow down and pay respect to him. Why was that? Why do you think that Haman refused to do, or Mordecai refused to bow down to Haman? It wasn't really, bowing down to Haman wasn't like worshiping him like an idol. It was more of like how if we were to be in front of the Queen of England, we would bow or curtsy if you're a girl, as a way of showing respect. Now, Mordecai knew that Haman hated the Jews, and it was more of Mordecai not showing respect to someone who hated God and hated the Jews. And it was more of Mordecai standing up for believing in God. So can you think of some other people who did that? Right, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Okay, so this is kind of along the same lines as that. He's not really bowing. He's not bowing down because Haman is supposed to be worshipped. He's not bowing down because he doesn't want to disrespect God, because he knows Haman hates the Jews. Okay, so the king's servants who were at the king's gate said to Mordecai, "Why do you not follow the king's command?" And when they spoke to him day after day, he would not listen to them. And they told Haman in order to see whether Mordecai's words would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. So the other guards at the gate were like, "Mordecai, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you doing this?" And they wanted to see, if push came to shove, if Mordecai would actually continue to do that. Would he continue to not bow down to Haman? Okay, so they went and told Haman. And when Mordecai did not bow down to Haman, when Haman saw this, Haman was filled with fury, but he did not lay hands on Mordecai alone. So as they had made known to him the people of Mordecai, Haman sought to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. So it wasn't just, I'm going to take my anger out on Mordecai. I'm going to take my anger out on all of the Jews. That was what Haman basically was trying to do. Okay, verse 7. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, that's probably about March, April time period, okay? In the 12th year of King Xerxes, they cast Pur, and that's basically like taking dice and rolling dice to see what whatever it lands on, what the future holds. So it's basically like a way of like fortune telling, okay? So they're casting dice, okay, before Haman, day after day. And they cast it month after month until the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. They did this for about 11 months, okay? 11 months. Haman wanted to destroy the Jews, but he didn't do it right away. He actually waited 11 months before he brought his bright idea to King Xerxes, okay? So Haman said to King Xerxes, there are certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of every other people, and they do not keep the king's laws, so that it is not to the king's profit to tolerate them. Meaning, there's people here in your kingdom that don't follow your laws. You shouldn't put up with that, is basically what he's saying. So here he's continuing talking. If it pleases the king, let it be put into law that they be destroyed. And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who have charge of the king's business, that they may be put into the king's treasuries. So 10,000 talents, we don't know an exact money amount, but that is about 375 tons of gold, which was about 70% of the king's annual, like what he would make in a year from all of his taxes, okay? That's a lot of silver. So the king took his signet ring. Remember the ring that the king had that had like the seal on it, and anytime he pushed it into wax, that would basically tell everyone like a signature, like I just signed it, okay? So he took the king's signet ring from his hand and he gave it to Haman, the enemy of the Jews. And the king said to Haman, the money is given to you, the people also, to do it as it seems good to you. Okay, so the king basically like, here's the money, do what you want. Then the king's scribes were summoned on the 13th day of the first month, and an edict or a law, according to all that Haman commanded, was written to all the governors of all the provinces. Remember that huge kingdom of King Xerxes. In their own script, so their own writing, in their own language, and it was written in the name of King Xerxes and sealed with the king's ring. So Haman wrote the law, and Haman signed it in the name of the king. Letters were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces with instructions to do this. To do what? To destroy, to kill, and to annihilate all Jews, young and old, women and children, in one day, the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to steal all their goods. Imagine that. Has that happened in history before, and has it happened since this time? Absolutely. Remember Hitler in World War II? You guys will be learning about him in history pretty soon, but we've talked about him before. Haman was so filled with hate for the Jews that he wrote a law in the name of the king to kill all Jews. Didn't matter if they were babies, didn't matter if they were already on their deathbed, they were sold, didn't matter if they were men or women, didn't matter anything. On one day, they were going to go, and every single province in the king's kingdom, people were to kill all the Jews and then take everything that they owned. Okay, a copy of this document was issued, and the law was given to every province, and the couriers went out and hurried by order of the king, and the decree was issued in the capital, and the king and Haman sat down to drink. So it was all sent out. They were like, great. Haman, the king didn't really understand what was going on. He just trusted Haman. And they sat down to have a drink after a great day's work, right? But here's how this chapter ends. It says, but the city of Susa was thrown into confusion. the capital was thrown into confusion. There's no specific reason that's stated in here on why they were thrown into confusion, but most likely even in this pagan population, that there was probably a lot of confusion because of the extreme and deadly racism that the king and Haman were now showing towards the Jews. So what is going to happen? I need you to answer the questions that are below and email it to your teacher. And if you have any additional questions about any of these first 3 chapters that we are reading, feel free to leave them in the comments there, and we will try to answer them as best we can. All right, guys, we love you. Bye.